All right.
Yeah.
We are live.
We're live and we're 2 minutes late.
Yeah. We're not the best, podcasters, but we're really good digital marketers.
Right. Being on time, it just, I show up just in the nick of time. That's what I tell my kids. It's like, I'm not early.
We're fashionably late, Stoic. Okay. Stoic commented late. And he's publicly shaming us, or she is, but we're fashionably late. There's a big difference.
It's okay. It's very complicated being the producer, the executive producer, and the co-host all at once. So and the tech guy in the background, because we don't have anybody helping us out with this. It's just me and you.
Right.
But what we do have is we have lots of good stuff for you today. And I think as a continuation from our conversation from last Friday, for those of you, technically we're not late. We're actually 28 minutes early, if you really think about it that way, just to sort of put a positive spin on it.
Yeah, we're super early today, actually. You all are late.
You guys are all, that's it. We had a conversation at the end of, I think, last week's Tier 11 Live that we wanted to revisit some of the MPIs.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the big ones that I think people get stuck on this. I'm amazed at how many businesses don't know the answer to this question. Like, how much can you afford to pay for a customer? Like, what should your nCAC be? Like, figuring it out after the fact is one thing, but how do you figure it out just to begin with? And I think we ended last week's call talking about that, and you went through it a bit. I know actually we're going to talk about the MPIs today, but because we talk about nCAC a lot here. So I think I'm the guy who goes back to basics, always back to the basics. It's like, all right, we're going to talk about all these cool things like feeder strategy and whatever you're cooking up in the laboratory. But the point is like at the end of the day, like a lot of that rests on a foundation of the basics. And I think nCAC is probably, it's right up there. It's probably the most important MPI. Would you agree, disagree?
It's absolutely agree. Yeah, nCAC is the most important because it's something that cannot be faked, cannot be skewed, and is probably the hardest one to actually manipulate in a good sense, like how to actually move the needle there. And because nCAC is a broad reaching metric, which means it's your entire business's efforts to acquire a new customer. It's not like that campaign. That is a metric, but it's not, that's more like CPA. That's not an nCAC. nCAC is all of your efforts and the costs associated with those efforts. And there's a few different models. You can include organic and not include organic, include the people that you pay to produce the organic because there's no ad spend, yada, yada, yada. But for the most part, if you're talking about from a immediate change in your strategies, it's mostly the paid media. Everything else kind of takes long, and everything else is sometimes more secondary, like email and SMS and CRO. It all kind of stems from, well, where are you getting the traffic and how good is it? So when you're looking at how do I make an immediate change to that metric, you have to take into consideration all of your ad spend and all of the platforms and the amount of overlap in those channels, or the amount of attributable revenue rather than contributable revenue, all increase that nCAC metric, which is what you don't want. You want your cost per acquired first time customer to go down. It's kind of the whole goal. It's why you even see it on Shark Tank videos that are like 10 years old, and they're asking them, what's your cost to acquire a customer? Like, that's how investors think. That's how big businesses think.
Yep.
And the biggest, and I've worked with businesses that have, given me ad spend from $500 a day to $5 million a month. Like, it's anywhere in between. And the main difference that I see with businesses that are struggling to grow, or they can't kind of get it right, versus the businesses that have, publicly traded companies with investors that they have to keep very happy, the way that they measure is vastly, vastly different. And that's kind of what my job is, to bring, C-level publicly traded company metrics down to a smaller business sense in order to get you to think about your business differently and your marketing differently and your efforts differently in order to grow. Because all of the small businesses that do not adopt these metrics never turn into big businesses. I have not seen it once. They usually spiral out of control, but they never grow. It's usually just changing and demanding and asking and giving tasks to different people that are all working accidentally against you because they're only working for themselves, because not everyone's watching the same metrics, yada, yada, yada. So it is important to understand, adopt, and know how to apply these metrics to your business so that you know how your marketing efforts are adjusting those metrics. And all the metrics work together, but the primary metric that you should be concerned about when it comes to paid media is nCAC, because that is what you're currently paying to acquire a first-time customer every minute of every day. And only that metric will tell you if your ad spend is losing money, making money, breaking even, or and if you can scale or not. That metric is kind of the first thing that you have to look at to say, okay, let's review the health of my digital marketing.
And I think the basics of that are, first off, you have to determine what your nCAC is. So you have to understand your business well enough. And I think there's a formula that we could even just remind people of here. But second to that, one of the most important things is the N in CAC.
Yeah.
It is new. And that's very hard to distinguish within the platforms unless you have an attribution software that actually tells you the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's exactly right.
How do you figure out who's a new visitor and who's a repeat visitor? Like, how do you know that your Google, hey, so many people that will probably be seeing this video, not the super smart ones that show up each week, understand that if you're going to be running Google Performance Max or Advantage Plus on Meta, like that's going to be recycled traffic. It's going to be people who already know who you are. Maybe have bought from you before or have visited your website. That's warm traffic. So first-time buyers is what we're really trying to target. And those types of campaigns, those types of initiatives to acquire new customers. So you have a nCAC, a new cost to acquire a customer, is the most important thing in business. And if you don't figure that out, you're never going to be able to grow.
Right. It's as clear as, it's as clear as it can possibly be. There's no substitution for that metric. And there's no metric that says, yeah, but our nCAC is bad, but look at the choose insert metric here. Like our nCAC is bad, but look at the ROAS. It's like, yes, you're paying for existing customers that aren't costing you too much. That's still hurting.
So before we get into the tactical stuff, like if somebody asks you, like new client comes on board, we have one right now. One of the companies that we talked about in our one-on-one last week that has not given us an nCAC as of yet. They don't know what it is because it's complicated. How do you get it? Like, how do you determine it?
Yep. So first thing you'd want to look at is the average order per year per customer. That is the first thing that you'd want to look at, is how many times per year on average do my customers buy from me? And sometimes it's as little as like 1.05. Like it's people very, very little times will make more than one purchase. So once you establish the repeat rate of your new customers, because that will say my new customer bought X on day X, and then for that next year did not or made more purchases. What you're looking at is your lifetime value broken down by a date range, a query range, that you can identify what those new customers are worth in that date range. You want to look at them in different sections. So think about it like the first 30 days, and then maybe you could do 30, 60, 90 days as your first 3 that you're looking at. Then you can kind of jump to 6 months. Then you can jump to 12-month intervals, and then you can jump to 24-month intervals. And the reason why is sometimes people buy seasonally, like a baseball glove in spring, like buy a custom glove for you in February. They'll probably buy another custom glove from you again in February, March, maybe. Those are things that may have a high AOV purchase, but happen annually. Okay. So you want to look at, are they purchasing multiple times per year or purchasing for multiple years? That establishes how much your customers are worth to you when they first buy from you.
So generalized understanding of the business, just to begin with, like obviously the glove manufacturer is going to be different than, a supplement company that is every 30 or 40 days, they're reordering or they're on some kind of recurring billing, that kind of thing. So obviously it's going to depend on the business. That look back period is key. That's where a lot of people get stuck. Do I look back a month? Do I look back 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? As a general rule, I always say, well, look back 12 months as a blanket statement, at least. And the way that I sort it out is a little bit differently. I say, like, listen, go into your Shopify store. That's your master of all things. Like for an e-commerce business, what is your total revenue for the last 12 months? How many unique buyers do you have? Okay. And figure out, and then that is basically just a division at that point, because then you figure out your LTV, your lifetime value of that 12-month span.
Mhm.
It's at least a starting point. And then you understand what the LTV is. And then I base nCAC on LTV.
Mhm.
I'm curious as to how you base it, or like what you think when you're asked this type of question.
Yep. So I cheat.
Yeah.
I will do something called I'll get an app. If it's on Shopify, this is $12. It also is it will go retroactively, and there's a free trial for like 2 weeks. So I'm not saying like go and cancel on them, but if you want something that's no cost up front, there's a app in Shopify called Buy the Numbers.
Mhm.
And I'll go ahead and share a screen here. This
Yep.
is the Buy the Numbers app on a brand that I'm an equity partner in. So I'm just going to share their information here because it's my information.
Sure.
We acquired this company a little over a year ago. We've been kind of growing it ever since. What this tells me, though, is that for last year compared to the
Bully
previous period,
sticks. I love bully sticks.
yeah, bully sticks. Which, if you don't know what bully sticks are, look it up. It's kind of funny.
Do a brand name search. Brand name search.
Yay.
Sales are just
So-
going off the charts right now.
Hey, people are buying bully sticks for their dogs. We love pets, and I, for some reason, I'm really ingrained in the pet industry. Don't know why, but it just works.
It's a rabid niche.
Right. So
But
for last year, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said, but it's a rabid niche. Get it? Rabies.
I
Rabid. Anyway.
hope my dog doesn't have rabies. John Moran's dog.
I hope John Moran's dog doesn't have rabies either.
He's 15, and I don't know if the foaming at the mouth's normal or not.
I'm saying our Google user, John Moran's dog. All right, continue.
So we have 52% increase in sales year over year. Okay, so that is going up. Now, what I want though is I want very little fluctuation year over year for two things: my average order value and my return purchaser rate. So what I'm looking at here is my average order value C is $78 that has changed 5% in 2 years. Static value, very, very reliable. And that's what I want. Now, my reliability of that metric is also going to be compared to my purchase frequency. Average per customer, 1.93 orders for the entire year, January 1, December 31st, 2024, compared to 2023. Now it's gone down 12% because we're scaling on new customers. So that's okay for it to go down. But on average, if I just take the low side of what it's gone down to of 1.93, this allows me to take out a very simple calculator and essentially say the difference, the value per new customer annually is $78.80 multiplied by 1.93. It's worth $152 on average. Now, in a year-long period, every new customer of mine, on average, is worth $152. Now, I have to take a look at a few different things if I want to become more accurate, or I can take it as like a face value if I want to kind of get a rough estimate. But for an example, if I had a profit margin of, let's say, 50%. So I know that I can't really.
Hold on. I'm going to stop you right there. Gross profit margin. So are we talking COGS of 50%? What are we talking?
Yeah, COGS.
Break that down.
Yeah, so I would look at my gross profit. And actually, what I'd have that inside of here. What I would look at is go into my analytics report. Hopefully, you built out a good Shopify account. If you didn't, spend some time in this area here, where you're looking at the profit by product and the profit by product. This metric here will tell you, if I just look at, I'm gonna do 90 days as an example.
Yep.
If I look at my 90-day gross profit margin is 61.1%. So if I have $93,000 in sales, it costs me $36,000 in COGS.
Okay.
So 61% is my gross margin after COGS. Now, if I used, just as an example, I'll do 50% for round numbers. I know that I cannot afford to spend in a paid media measurement way a cost per acquired first time customer more than $76.04. That means that if I spend $76, I will make $78. So I'll have a 1 ROAS or a 1 NMR, if you think about it that way,
right,
on this customer. Then after a year, I will make an additional $75 on them, which if it costs me 76 to make 76 and it costs me 76, it's basically I'm kind of breaking even essentially. And my CAC payback is 365 days long. You'll be paid back, made whole of your CAC payback is really nCAC payback, the cost of acquire first time customer versus the return that customer will net you in a year-long time period is 1 year. Now, what that means for my nCAC target is I need to stay below 75. That's all that means is your nCAC ceiling. You cannot afford at any point in time, no matter what, you cannot afford to pay more than $75. Otherwise, after a year, you will still have a net loss greater than 1 penny. So it's an easy way for you to kind of benchmark things. You can get into more advanced metrics where you're saying, if I'm selling a metric ton of a very specific type of product, like we are in this business, we sell a lot of beef cheeks. It's kind of one of our main products, and it's actually more than twice as many as our second item. This is Paw Protect, is basically shipping protection, so it doesn't count as a SKU because it's on like every order. But the beef cheeks here, I have a larger amount of beef cheeks than anything else, and that's at a 70% profit margin. Now, if I was going more advanced, I would have an nCAC target by product, because what I can afford to pay at 70% margins, I cannot afford to pay at 40% margins. Those nCAC metrics are different. Those nCAC targets, those nCAC goals are different because my profit margin is different. You can take 61.1 and call it a day and start there. That will be good enough. But if you're looking to grow and scale in a very particular way, please, for the love of God, do not take, I have a 61.1% profit margin and apply that to something with 41% and scale. You'll find out a year later, you lost money. So it is important for you to go a little bit more deeper and go into a little bit more specific advanced metrics on your gross margin per product. And then, like what we're doing, this is a great selling product with a great margin. Let's push for sales. Easy. Yeah. So that's a good way for you to simply identify your nCAC target in the most broad sense that it would apply to almost everyone here.
So that's an average on all products, which I think people have to understand. Like if you're just basically doing a wide reaching Google shopping campaign and that's it, you're not doing product specific, I guess, 61% gross profitability is like the metric that you would be measuring against. However, the mix is going to be vastly different depending on how many products in each individual category are being sold. So this is not an easy calculation to make. It's not like you can just snap your fingers and that's it. So and I think we need to continue to sort of get back to these basics and talk to people about this, because another part to this is you might want to even take out, like, all right, my gross profit is 61% on my products based upon how you're looking at things. And this is a great tool, by the way. And obviously to double check it through Shopify. Shopify is always going to be your source of truth, no matter what. Right. So whether you do it John's way, whether you do it my way, either way, there's also a way in which you can estimate it too, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, especially if you're trying to scale and grow. But there's also other costs that are associated with this that you have to factor in. And so when I was learning this stuff, the next step after gross profit was, all right, figure out what you want your profit margin to be, and then factor that out. And then what's left over should be your nCAC. However, you're not including your operating expenses in this. So it's not necessarily cash in, cash out. So these calculations become a little bit more complex the more complex the business is.
They're a blueprint. There's a starting point, right? They're definitely more like a blueprint. Now, I've actually been in a situation where the company owner had a horse stable that they didn't tell anybody about, sucking out about $12,000 in revenue per month on their business. That
would be under selling general and administrative CEO expenses.
It's like 2 horses in a stable costing like $12,000 a month. And I'm like, yeah, that's not gonna be factored into our nCAC. Okay.
Right. Yeah. How do I figure that one out?
Wait, if you buy a 3rd horse, I get fired? No, wait a minute.
It's like, I'm talking about like normal expense. Like all us CEOs do have some dubious expenses, as I'm sure you know. Oh, yeah. However, that one, I don't think I'd ever be able to get that one through Adrian. But the point is like there's a management layer. Okay. Right. There is a layer of cost that you have regardless of the volume that you're pushing.
All right.
And obviously, like when you look at this, when people are always coming to us and say, well, what should I sell online or what should I be selling? I always say, what's your best selling product? What's your product with your highest margin?
Mm-hmm.
If you can have those two right there, start there and then begin there. And especially if you have multiple SKUs after the fact that you can use for upsells or cross sells or post purchase, through an email sequence, that's a good place to start, in my opinion. Especially when you're really starting on paid media. Agree or disagree?
100%. And that's kind of what we did here, which is which is kind of funny. You'll see that the beef cheek rolls, I know, right? Beef cheek rolls. If we go to like June, and I think we were like actually started this sometime in like October of 2023. But anyway, if you just look here, for example, right? Like the beef cheek rolls have gone up 100% in terms of the number of items sold.
Yeah.
And that's because we had good margin and our margin has gotten better on it. So what this essentially allowed us to do is increase our items 22% for sale, but then also bring up our summary global gross profit by 24%. So now rather than make 122 and make 151, that allows us to actually have a higher nCAC target. I'm making more per money on a higher AOV product that actually has a faster repeat rate. I get paid back earlier. So my nCAC went from $35 to about $45. Now it allows us to scale a little bit faster. I'm gonna pause us here just for a moment because I do want to add two other variations I think are extremely important to the majority of the audiences here.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of my internal metrics on a company that I'm deeply ingrained with. And one thing that you can't get from these targets, for example, is your revenue and your customers that are coming from Amazon.
Yeah.
When you take this into consideration, like we did, we have a $300 nCAC ceiling. Reason being is that a lot of our customers, and you'll see our subscribers, this is actually feeder strategy. And that's why subscribers like, woo, like scaling like crazy since December 1st. That's when kind of the feeder strategy, we started showing about it because it does work extremely well.
Beautiful chart. I wish I owned that stock.
Right. I know. And so what's funny about this is we have an average order value per subscriber per month of $66. So $66 multiplied by 208 active average days of subscriptions. You got 208 divided by 30. They're average about 7 months. So you got $66 times 6.93 equals $457. You're like, okay, so 450, but you have an nCAC target of 300. That seems a little bit close for like an entire subscription and your nCAC. It doesn't equate for the other almost 50% of our revenue each week being made on a platform that we actually can't identify new versus returning customers.
Right.
So
it's just coming in.
Exactly. And a way that we're doing this is basically you kind of have to default count all these new because this actually doesn't really matter if they're new or repeat. It's not something that we're necessarily going to have a lot of control or even visibility into. But I have to look at this and say, if I have an additional, 12 and 1,300 and 1,400 sales per week on top of the recurring subscriptions, we're basically having what we look at as a CAC payback timeline of about 60 days before it's by month 3, it's 100% pure profit for the next 4 months, essentially. And that's and that's also including all of the Amazon orders. Right. So you have to take into consideration if I cannot attribute Amazon and I have to still factor it into my nCAC, my paid media platforms, attribution, click attributed versus engaged view, blah, 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 blah. All that stuff is going to have zero reporting on things that happened on Amazon that is overlap, or leakage. And our leakage is about 50%, which means all of our nCAC targets that we're measuring have to essentially be, our reality is it's cut in half. A $300 attributable nCAC target to us is actually about $150 nCAC target for us. Now we're doing $150 to about $500 every 6 months with every single customer. Now that's great scale. You're making 4 times, 3, 4, 5 times, sometimes your money back within a half of a year timeline. And then we push. So that's one of the things that you have to take into consideration is things like your subscribers, what they're worth to you, and also your Amazon overlap and what that actually pays for you that doesn't necessarily scale ad spend with revenue. And because if you're looking at your Amazon, you'll see probably more overlap to your other marketing than what you're spending inside of Amazon. But all those factors all have to be taken into consideration when you're talking about nCAC. So you don't put a plan together, put a bunch of money into it, wait 6 months and say, whoops, I lost $50,000. Right. It's important to know these metrics.
Because John Moran said I should pay my entire gross margin out as for my nCAC, which is not what we're saying here, by the way.
No.
The other part to this, the other caveat before we get to, I'm sure we have a show and tell here as well for you. We want to get to the questions. Is people also have to keep in mind Amazon. Like Amazon is something that we're really excited about because we were big Northbeam fans. We're both investors in Northbeam. Even though, he doesn't return my phone calls anymore. I don't know why. I don't know why that is, but anyway, right. But now we they're, I think you said it best. I was listening to a call this week. It's like, I'm happy as an investor, but pissed off as a customer. Because I'm like, they're going enterprise, they're going, MMM, whatever, dude. Like keep doing your thing. So anyway, one of the things that you need to factor in is Amazon sales. And one of the most exciting things about Tier 11 Data Suite and with our partnership and ownership of Wicked Reports is Amazon coming into that and being able to see Amazon revenue, because that is part of the sort of the trickle down waterfall effect. However, seeing it visually versus all your other platforms is great, but there's also costs on Amazon that you have to figure out too. So it's not just all free money. And when you say like after month 3, it's pure profit, you're still paying out your cost of goods sold. You're still paying out your management layer, your lawyer fees, your software expenses, all those fixed expenses. But then Amazon adds a percentage as well, which on top of that. So that's a question that we often have for clients is, are you profitable on Amazon right now? And why are you spending $127,000 on Amazon if you're the only product that they're coming in and you're, it looks great with $700,000 a month in revenue, but $100,000 in spend. Like, why are you even spending that? Because you could just increase your MRR if you lowered that spend overall, because I know you're not making as good of a gross profit on your Amazon sales as you would be if they were on your site. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, it's true. This will actually be a really good, I'm getting to a product. This will actually be a really good video for us to do soon. You can run Amazon extremely profitable as your website's sales. And the trick there, and we'll go through this on another account or another live. But the trick there is to take your product and have it at a very decent price of, let's say, $31.99 with a kind of upsell to a subscription that you save additional money on. Make this very enticing and very, appeasing. Like, hey, we got to get you on this subscription. This is what's best for you. We're trying to convince people to be on subscription. Yep. If they don't want to buy it for subscription,
I think I know where you're going on this, but anyway, keep going.
Yeah, they can pay $31.99. And if they don't know who we are, they don't trust us, they're not sure if they want to buy it, they can buy it on Amazon for $43.
Beautiful. That's exactly what I wanted to say.
Yeah. So $32 and $43.
We didn't even rehearse this.
No. And what's funny is you could pay $12. People will pay $12 more. You could see 10,500 reviews on this product. People will pay $12 more because they know they can get it free by Sunday with one-click returns. And that is the biggest overlap there, is because the colder you go in traffic, the less brand trust you have with those people, the more brand trust they have with Amazon. If Amazon's like, yeah, I can get it free tomorrow, they'll pay $10 more to be secure on there rather than take a risk on an unknown site that they just found out on a social media platform today.
You're just meeting people where they are.
And
you know what I mean? It's like, I trust that platform. I know I'm going to get it in a certain amount. I don't know who these guys are. Are they actually going to ship it? Right. It seems like they're trustworthy. I bought stuff on sites that are similar to this without really knowing it's Shopify kind of thing. Yep. It autofills all my information. Great. But, it's one click away, literally one click, and I'm going to get it within 24 hours.
And if you don't like it, it's one click for all of your refunds before you even need to send it out. Who does that? No one. Amazon does.
So in that particular case, and this is a secret sauce, like this is the reason why, he is who he is because this is smart. And it's $12 more, but that's like a 30 some odd % increase.
Yeah, 30 to 40. You're basically, you're adding like at least 28 or 31% more. What's funny is we actually make more money on Amazon. Their fee doesn't even reduce it down to the price. So we have it on our website.
Right. And I'm sure you guys have tested it. The point is that I think it's 15, it's anywhere between 10 to 18%, depending on where you are.
We're getting.
Yeah. So
and if it's a big item, it's like 21% sometimes because now they're taking a premium shelf space.
That is a killer. Like if you're selling on Amazon right now and you have price parity with everything on your site, no wonder why you're losing sales over on Amazon. And you got to give them an incentive to, obviously, on the recharge side, like that's a deal and a half. Hey, I can get this for $12 less. So I
Yeah.
might try it on Amazon. And then I'm like, I can get it for a better deal. Like it was pretty good. I think I'll go over here and subscribe to it.
Yep.
I'll
And I want
guarantee
to.
you that happens.
Oh yeah, we get subscribers on Amazon, and I want to switch over to one last quick little point of a cool thing that we learned this week before we jump into questions. I know we're halfway through, and we usually want to switch over this time. One thing that I would say though is we have clients that will say like, "Look at your increase on Amazon." They're like, "Yeah, that doesn't matter." It's like, excuse me.
Right.
I have 10,000 5-star reviews from people who voluntarily paid $12 more for the same product, and we don't mark it on Amazon. They literally will pay 30% above your website price because they don't trust you and they trust Amazon. And if we're saying that your marketing is not having an effect on Amazon, when I can prove that you can pay 30% more, no, it's absolutely the people that are going from Amazon, from Meta and YouTube and Google search right over to Amazon and buying the product that they just learned about on your website that you saw a 0% conversion rate on.
Yeah. Think about how you buy. Like everybody goes and either Googles it or goes to Amazon.
Yep.
It's human nature now. It's like, don't fight it.
Exactly.
But work with it. We once had a client, and we want to obviously get to questions here, but we once had a client who premium priced on their website and it was less on Amazon.
Oh, geez. Amazon's probably super happy about that.
They were just, I was like, how much are you guys making on it? Like they didn't even know. Like, we did an in-person with them. This is a multi-million, like a $20 million company.
Yeah.
So we went through the whole thing. I was like, here's what people do. They see our ad, then they Google search it, and then they go to Amazon, they buy your stuff. You know why? Like, I don't know, because it's $37 on your website and it's $21 on Amazon. They're like, are you kidding me? It's
yeah.
Like,
when their own employees would buy their own products on Amazon versus their website. Like that's probably something that would happen.
Absolutely. So it's like, don't make that mistake. If anything, use the tips that we just gave you here. Premium price it over on Amazon, especially if you've got a good product that has a differentiator
and has the SKUs that are most often the first purchase that leads to a higher LTV. Put those on Amazon because those you have limited SKUs, a really enticing first-time offer that when they get that, they like it, they try it, and they want to get more. I'm so sorry, as those other products are not on Amazon. Come over to our website where we have discounts on subscriptions.
Right.
So we'll do a whole episode on that strategy. That's fun stuff.
Pretty cool stuff.
All right. Here's my last thing I wanted to share. This is a huge kind of idea. It's not a case study. It's more just an example. But when we're talking about overlap and nCAC, this is what is insane. And I only want to do this because Mark, I see that you had a question about a PMAX, and this is actually right up your alley. And when I say things like, well, it's PMAX, it doesn't matter. This is what I mean. So we have a use case of an example. We will need to blur this out after it goes live, but we'll just kind of share it right here for the people that are watching now. This is an account that I'm kind of consulting on that has a Meta account and a Google Ads account. Both the Meta account and Google Ads account have a lot of overlap. We know that to be true because we can see it here inside of Wicked that even scaling up this Performance Max by 100% and getting new revenue up by 68%, it's the same traffic. It's 32, just like everything else. So when that scales up, it pulls from everything else. And because these metrics are so easily identifiable, a test would be like, well, what if you took all of your top of funnel traffic of unaware traffic and unaware CPO, which is your feeder strategy? What if you just pause that for a bit? So from the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th, it was paused. We left on the bottom of the funnel, middle funnel for the warm traffic. That's, we have engagement there, but let's pause top of funnel. Let's pause our awareness campaigns and let's see what happens to Performance Max. So this was 60% reduced. Our feeder strategy was basically reduced by about 80%. And the Performance Max campaign had 1,200 conversions for 11 grand and 1,100 conversions for 11 grand. And okay, this is really good. I'm getting 1,000 conversions a day. Now, 6th, 7th, and 8th, you see the conversions go from 1,300 down to 600 down to 38. So they just crashed down 6th, 7th, and 8th. And that was the same time period that if we look at this here, for example, turn off the comparison, there's your 6th, 7th, and 8th. So all of a sudden, we pause the ad spend in Meta, and Performance Max goes from making 17,000 sales every month to now making 33. Try to even take the ad spend from $8,500. I was getting $1,200 sales. Spent $8,000 a day, got 1,200 sales. Now they spend $9,000 a day, 36. The red line is conversions. Tanked, hit the ground. Ad spend, try to scale up, bring it back, had zero effect on it. Why? Warm traffic. The overlap rates are ridiculous. 7 out of every 10 people that are in that campaign were already been to the website. So when the new traffic funnel was shut off in feeder strategy, boom, Performance Max fell and was literally doing nothing but only secondary clicks. That's the overlap that I'm talking about. That 10 grand per day that actually had very little impact on the actual company. Imagine saving $10,000 a day. What's that worth? Oh, 120 grand a month. I mean, or like 300,000 a month. It's pretty easy to do that kind of thing, but it's like insane. 120 grand every like 12 days. That is huge.
Why'd you shut it off? To prove a point? Or did they say, oh, that campaign doesn't look good?
Yeah, it's people know about this account now that we kind of shared it just on this live. There was some agreements and disagreements on what would happen if that happens. So there was just had to be things just had to be vetted out in real time.
Because it looks bad in Ads Manager.
Well, Performance Max was not doing the 10 grand worth of lift that everyone thought it was.
Okay. Got it.
Hey, it's got $10,000 a day and it's making 1,200 sales a day. This thing's rock and rolling. Watch this. It can just be removed. Now, this was me on the sidelines kind of watching, but there's a lot more complex issue, a lot of political issues. So it was like my involvement, people kind of learning it, some people agreeing, some people disagreeing, and then this ended up happening, and that was a result of it. So just kind of interesting to see how you can lose 1,200 sales a day on Performance Max by something else that is not even within Google Ads.
Unbelievable. Well, right? lesson learned and point made. It sounds like. Did it come back after that?
Yeah, we had a discussion 2 days ago and an email this morning on it. So it'll have some changes that are being made, but that's what's crazy. So when you're looking at feeder strategy, or when you say Performance Max has X, Y, and Z, is it contributing or attributing? Because that shows you right there, it's attributing. It's not contributing anywhere. Your spend in one area, nothing to do with Google, had all of your revenue in another area inside of Google. When we're talking about omni-channel overlap, that's what we're talking about. When we're talking about nCAC, what if you could save 10 grand a day? What does that do to your first-time customer cost? Whoa, now it's a lot cheaper. Why? We didn't have to spend that there. So those are all things that we're going to talk about. nCAC is affected omni-channel and multi-layered, and that's where this gets really difficult.
Okay. It's not easy stuff. That's why we're here. All right. Well, let's get into questions. All right.
Let's do it.
Mark Pommet.
All right.
Asks this.
I have a Performance Max campaign. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
Want me to read it? I'll read it just so you can think while I'm reading it. I have a PMax campaign with a 350% T ROAS. I want to run feeder strategy with 100% T ROAS standard shopping, but my blended ROAS needs to be over 300%. How would you allocate budget split?
Yep. So this is my question here. If you're saying my Performance Max has to have a ROAS of X, we're thinking about this still wrong. Well, what you should be measuring, in my opinion, is I need to measure my cost in both of these networks, Standard Shopping and Performance Max. I need to look at them combined, and I need to look at the SKUs, and I need to look at what I'm marketing for, and then review what I can afford to pay by nCAC, run that feeder strategy, ignore what Google says inside of the application. As you can see, I can remove 1,200 sales a day if I wanted to. Sure. Ignore all the metric inside and then say, what did that do for the cost of acquired first-time customer for the products that I'm marketing those two campaigns? ROAS could say 7 or a billion. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. So I can't tell you what it can over attribute, and it doesn't actually provide us any good data. That's how manipulative this is. You can see, I know you asked the question before we did the demonstration, but I'm referring back to it as that's how we want to think about things in an nCAC perspective.
Yeah, hopefully that demonstration answers the question to Mark as well. He did have a follow-up question, but I think we covered it there.
Yeah, to maintain a high ROAS, you have to have a feeder strategy at less than 50%. I would actually run feeder strategy at 80% because, again, I don't look at ROAS, but it usually scales a lot faster.
Right. It's a leap of faith. Yep. It really is. The first time you did it, took a very, very brave man to eat the first oyster. That's my father. Very true. Same thing here. All right. Hakeem M says, hey guys, how's it going? Last time I launched a standard shopping low budget alongside our big PMax. It's doing 4 to 5 T ROAS. How can we scale it now?
Yeah.
SS with top 300 SKUs with more than 20% daily budget? Question mark.
I would continue to only scale your standard shopping campaign, but do not outpace the learning algorithm. What you have to identify is your time lag. That time lag will tell you how often you can increase your ad spend. And what I would recommend, if you had a 10-day time lag, spend on day 1 and then wait till day 10. From day 10 through day 17, for example, or 16, if you're counting that next week, that's when you start to measure. Your increase in spend is not going to come back until the time lag has elapsed. Once that time lag elapsed, then you can say, okay, if I add in 20% after a 7-day time lag, the next week looks like I have spent 20% more than 2 previous weeks ago and got 20% more. Excellent. You kind of have to remove the week of scale. If that works good, do it again. Just keep doing it, keep measuring it. What you'll see is performance max inside of the account start to look like better and better and better. The spend will stay the same, but you'll have just more sales and higher ROAS, because it says, hey, I'm just doing more remarketing on a higher amount of people, but I'm not spending as much, or I'm not spending more. I'm just remarketing to more people who are purchasing. Flat spend, more new people, spending with you, higher ROAS. So as you scale standard shopping, ignore what the standard shopping ROAS is. Look to see if your performance max ROAS is increasing. That's what you'll see. That would let you know it's on the right track.
Makes sense. Hakeem, was this the same question?
That's the same one. Yep.
Sorry. Of course. Romana, I'm so glad. Yeah, we're just going to take the recording of this and throw it into Josh's AI tool.
Perfect.
Over there, HR. Thank you for coming. Yeah, that's it. That's how he says it. Connor S says, question for both of you. How do you manage client expectations around reporting cadence, especially when there is delayed attribution? Do you still report in platform metrics or just CRM third party?
Yep. So we will report on probably everything. It's basically in-app and all that kind of stuff. What we try to do is educate our client first before setting client expectations. What we do, and typically in the sales process. So someone says, hey, I need a 500 ROAS. I'm say, okay, what's your nCAC goal? I don't know. How much your LTV? Not sure. What about your new versus returning customers? Not sure. What about new versus returning users? Not sure. Okay. So we have the first out of 15 that you want. We have to uncover all of these. Like, this is not something we didn't need to know set in stone now. But it's what we, from now on, will only judge everything by those in the future. So we try to at least get them up to speed on, here's what we're going to be measuring. We'll start working with you to identify what those targets are. They'll start digging through their data to identify what those targets are. But at no point in time will we take, oh, yeah, but look at the ROAS. We're not going to revert back to the incorrect way. So by educating them, hey, if you were paying X amount for new customer and you had a lifetime value of X, is that applicable to you? Yes. Okay. So we know that our nCAC is this. Yes. Okay. It might be $60 on a $10 product. And now the client just said yes to a 20 ROAS. Perfect. Like we already agreed that was the situation. If they didn't quite understand it, we misexplained it. But what you want to do is imagine digital marketing wasn't a thing. And I run a billboard. I don't care. There is no CPC, CTRs. My same questions. How much can you spend on that billboard? And how many more new customers do you need? Call it a billboard. There is no ROAS on a billboard. There is no spend. So that's what you have to kind of break it down to. What if we removed the cool factor of everything that's new and sexy this 10 years and go back into the 80s? What would you do? Just, I don't know how to manage my company. No, you do. You're just thinking of it wrong. So kind of bring them back to basics.
There is a client management question embedded within this, though, because it is challenging, especially if you're trying to convert some of your legacy clients from a ROAS mindset into the more modern way of how we explain it here, which is the old way at the end of the day. Like, we got spoiled from, the mid 2000s till a year or so ago, like 2-3 years ago, let's say, because everything was right in there and you could trust most of it. Now we've exemplified in dozens of calls here that you can't trust what's happening inside the platform itself, just because we know how it works, and the platforms are obviously going to try and make themselves look as good as they possibly can. So the new way of doing things is the old way of doing things. And I think that is, when you come back to business metrics, that's why we hammer home these MPIs so much in nCAC. Why do we spend 30 minutes going through nCAC? It's not because we don't want to teach some cool new strategy, because that's the bedrock concept for growing a business.
Yep.
We just got spoiled and got away with it because we get like, oh, I've got 300%. Well, every e-commerce client that used to come to us, John, every single one. Well, what's your goal? Like 300%.
400 ROAS. 300, yeah, exactly.
It was always 300.
That podcast last week said that was it.
I don't know. Just it is. But I think, the platforms were getting more cold traffic back then. Exclusions kind of worked.
Tracking was better. Yeah.
Tracking was better. We didn't have the iOS 14 stuff. I mean, we've mitigated all of that with Tier 11 Data Suite now, which is great, but not everybody has it. The point is like, it does go back to the basic metrics and re-educating your clients on this. That's why I would highly recommend you, Connor, S, to download the MPI worksheet and talk through it with your clients.
Yep.
Anyway, it's tier11.com/MPI. Next question.
Yep.
It's always a pitch. Bodea Tutor. Hi, John. Hi, Ralph. Do you have a strategy for developing a brand in the beauty niche in Google, or rather focus more on UGC and social media? It's a really good question.
For beauty, and I've been in a lot of beauty brands, big beauty brands.
You are a beauty. That's what
I know. Like, I'm like, look at me. I sell a lot of hair care products and
your hair care products. Your hair.
Yeah. I should be selling turtle wax. Like, look at that shine. Like, seriously.
Got great skin.
Thank you. It's all the filtering I have on my camera.
That's good.
So
touch up your
honestly, like, the only thing Google related that you should be focusing on for your beauty brand is just YouTube. YouTube. Yeah. Now, yes, you want to run shopping. Yes, you want to run search. Is that your primary focus? Absolutely not. Your beauty niche is nothing but repetitive, repetition, frequency, repetitive. And I mean, it's basically just beating people over the head with ads for weeks at a time. Honestly, talk about brand building. There's no such thing between Kylie Jenner's brand and, Ulta's name brand. Like, anybody here, name the ingredient differences.
Well, Kylie Jenner makes it, so it must be better.
They're pretty. There's literally, like, you can't even name 5 ingredients in any of it. So it's only branding. How does it look, and what's the status? Like, that's it. Clean, yes, but
get your hair clean.
Exactly. Clean, no parabens, no dyes, like that kind of stuff. Always good. That's the clean movement that's moving in, but it's literally nothing but a repetitious brand placement. That's all this is. You want to have use cases. You want to have, before and afters. You want to have testimonials. You want to have social proof. You want to have sales and scarcity and discounts. You want to have a lot of product SKUs so you can upsell, cross-sell. You want to have subscriptions. You want to have bundles. You want to do all this stuff. Insert name here. And whatever you call your products, but it is literally just how much can you remind people that they should try this, and how much can you entice them. So it's Meta, it's obviously Instagram. So you want to do a lot of feeds, you want to do a lot of reels, a lot of UGC, a lot of influencer styles. YouTube Shorts are gonna be a little bit better than YouTube horizontal. But it's really like you're just doing constant outreach, and your ROAS goal for all of your stuff is anything basically above a 0.1, maybe. Like, you don't even count ROAS at that point. You're looking for, you'll probably have a lot of organic and direct and email sales. That's where your sales will start to come in from first, really.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, what are you going to do? Like, compete with Procter & Gamble on best shampoo?
Right.
Like, really?
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you can do it unless you, like, we have had clients that have gone after those high value keywords in very competitive niches because their product is $10,000 to $15,000. Like, you have the AOV, you have the LTV to be able to do it, but you will never be able to sustain yourself in a search campaign like that, or shopping, for example. But it's really, it's going high level, top of funnel creative. What makes you different than everyone else that's out there? Even if it's just, it's new, or it's some kind of, ingredient in your product that you want to highlight. I mean, this Schlitz beer, like, sold more beer because they had brown bottles. Everyone else had brown bottles, but no one marketed it because they had brown bottles.
Yeah.
Like, go back in the annals of history. I think it was Claude Hopkins who actually wrote the ads, like a great ad man. Look it up. The point is like, that's your differentiator in a crowded market. What's your differentiator?
Yeah. What's your unique selling position, your unique value proposition? Like, those are things, but you can call it something, but if you show everybody at once, it's never going to work. Yeah. So that's what's great. You have to have, obviously, it's branding, and it's repetition, and it's outreach. Yeah. It's absolutely true.
Absolutely. And yes, more dad jokes, the better. We'll continue those. Romina. All right. Stuart Little. Hey, I know Stuart Little. Can we run standard shopping ads on Google or Facebook ads for cigarettes in Canada? Ooh.
Unfortunately, no. Here's I just dropped in the chat 2 links, one from Google and one from Meta. I don't know if they'll show up well, but maybe we can Google them or take a screenshot of it and type it in later. But those are the 2 pages that basically say that they do not allow tobacco ads inside of Canada or the United States on both Meta and Google. I have run alcohol ads inside of Google, and you have to exclude the people 18 to 24, but for whatever reason, they deem cigarettes to be harmful. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but that's their positions on it.
Yeah, I've done the same thing on Meta for alcohol. All right, Stuart Little again. How is Reddit ads? Any experience with it?
Lot of experience with it. What's interesting is Reddit is a whole different animal. It is a very little just batch and blast and cold traffic. The way I've seen this work the best, and I've seen 2 use cases from it where it was scalable, is when the person that's running the ads is also active in their community. That is the biggest thing. That is a massive lift, massive. And this is something where it's like third-party remote monitoring software through internet tech security firms. That person was really big in the managed security software, and he would always help out Redditors. He started running ads. I mean, just scale to the moon. It was like, hey, the smart guy in the group actually has a company. Holy crap. Like, it just went gangbusters. It was insane. Did you guys lose me? You froze a little bit, but I wasn't sure.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, you're frozen to me. I don't know why. Okay, cool. But anyway, that's where I've seen it. Reddit ads can work well. Without that, I have not yet seen Reddit ads scale past like the $2,000 per day. That's where we kind of max. That's where we max out. If you're active in the community, it can be so much more. I don't know why, but it's just, I think it's because it's a community and people don't like random people encroaching in on their channel. But if someone that they know out of 10,000 people, it's always helpful, runs an ad, people love it. They support that person. It's crazy.
But you have to build up that trust prior to that actually really being
active in the community.
Effect. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely. Job to Freedom asks a great question here. Greetings from the UK. Jolly ho. Greetings. Greetings, Golf. Cheerio. Can you drop 60 seconds of your best YouTube ads value insights?
Yes. For anything conversion based where you're not trying to attract new cold customers, conversion-based bidding is great. Video action campaigns. If you are saying, I want to do what Meta does, I want to prospect, I want to grow my brand, I want to outreach, and I want to start to reach new people, you have to be CPM and CPV based. Cold traffic, here's a great one. Cold traffic inside of all platforms doesn't exist anymore. And I ran a test this last week on top of the other test, and I included YouTube and included Google in it because the client was experiencing some measurement blinders, and I'll share with you something very, very, very interesting. Watch how much the non-proactive type of marketing works on this one. So watch. This week here, 9 through 15, they spent 30% less on Facebook. We see Amazon go down, App 11 also affected by 24. Google Ads was also affected by negative 33%. YouTube only went down in 10% of spend, lost 52% revenue. Why? Well, we also lost 33% of new visits for 9% less. That's how warm this thing switches when demand starts to go down. Now, watch this, 3.12 MER. Okay, so we pull only out of Facebook, everything else drops, and we have a 3.12 MER. Well, fast forward a week, we swing the other way. Let's add 40% there. We're still at a 3.18 MER, but now all of a sudden Facebook gained 50. Amazon started to go up. App 11 still sucks. Google Ads, no additional money, 40% more revenue. YouTube Ads, 1% more spend, 33% additional revenue. All right, well, first click. First click, John. Same story. That's because attribution sucks. But you can see how YouTube will say, wait a minute, there's a whole bunch of rush of people. 40% less new visits makes 26% more sales. Where'd they come from? Maybe it was the 40% increase in Amazon or Google or Meta that had a 0% change in your MER because that is the actual contributing network. So when you're looking at what's your best YouTube, don't run a YouTube conversion and think it's going to scale the cold traffic. It will target half warm just like every freaking other thing in the world. Don't look at ROAS, run CPM and CPV and sequencing campaigns and measure MER and nCAC. That's how you scale YouTube.
Job to Freedom is going to have to watch the replay of this anyway. And
yeah.
Just delete out the part with the bad English accents. All right. John Moran's dog is in the house, switching from PMAX to standard shopping with a 50-50 split between Meta and Google spend. What would be an appropriate T-ROAS for standard shopping if the previous KPI goal was 400% of PMAX? I know we are right up against the top of the hour. I know you have familial obligations.
Yes, I have to pick up my daughter from the bus stop. So I have a very hard stop.
Okay.
Right at 3, 4 minutes left.
All right.
Honestly, 30%, 20% T-ROAS. I know it's stupid, but if the KPI goal is a percentile of ROAS inside of Performance Max, that's not a KPI in my opinion. That is, can it attribute more? So your standard shopping, what I would look at is whatever lowest number that you can go while still spending the full daily budget. If you go a little bit too high, it caps it. So spend low enough that you spend the full daily budget. That's where you want to start.
Quick question here. Amazon remove or penalize sellers who sell products at lower prices on their website? lower prices on their website on Amazon's. Well, I've never heard of this.
We have a lot of, I mean, we have 2 companies that have more than 15,000 reviews each, and each of their SKUs, and nothing. I mean, I've never heard of that, and I've worked with a lot of companies on Amazon, like over 100.
Makes sense. There you go. There's your question. John Moran's dog again. Do you gradually adjust to tier ROAS target and standard shopping, or do you always use lows?
Yeah. So
did he ask the same question or no?
No, it's a different one. So I would say is if gradually adjusting the increase, yes, I will if I'm not expecting to scale. So if I have a 40% T ROAS, I'm getting 250 and I'm scaling and we're good. And then when I stop scaling, it goes up to 300. I'll take that 40% T ROAS, move it up to 150, and I'll achieve not a 300%, I'll achieve a 400% in-app for no additional cost. And that is where I will remain at stasis. If I want to scale, that thing drops again. So I only increase it half of what my actual result is if I'm not expecting to scale.
We've got 3 minutes. How do you want to do it? We got
let's do this questions here. All right, let's just see this. Hey guys, can the feeder strategy work? FK? Yes. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry.
Yes, it works.
Hi, John. I'm just kidding. Hi, John. 2 questions. Have you figured out how to get display campaigns, top of funnel prospecting to work? Not yet. I can't even get my YouTube cold traffic to stop going after meta campaigns. Google is not a cold traffic anymore, ever. So display, yes, but I do every single time I move into cold traffic, I get bots. So I have not figured out display yet at all. Also, what is the thought process you go through when putting together a strategy for new clients? You start with the MPIs first. That will tell you where and when and how much you can afford to spend. But it's always what's your nCAC goal? What is your LTV? What is your business goal? Do we want to scale? Do you want to maintain? Blah, blah, blah. Then I say, okay, because of that issue, this is the channels and the advertisements and the spends and the splits and all the stuff that we will need to achieve that goal. It's always custom. Hey guys, can the feeder strategy work for B2B lead gen? If so, yes. I am running that inside of a search campaign. We can also review that next week, but there's no performance max. It is it's a search campaign using max clicks with exact match. That is 30% of our budget. And then we're using a cloned version of that campaign on a TCPA goal. That's actually a fairly restricted TCPA goal, like a low TCPA or a high TROAS goal using broad match. And that has about 70% of the ad spend because they're going to have different CPCs. But we have a video on that as well, though, here, actually. So I would go back and look at that one. That's the best one to look at. My YouTube ads are showing on non-English channels, even though my setting is English. Any thoughts? Look at optimized targeting. If optimized targeting is turned on, turn that off first. That is usually what just goes and randomly explores based on users. So check that first. If that's not on, actually contact your rep and ask for a refund. Enough times doing that, they'll fix it. I swear to God, it works. I think you guys should start podcasts or something. That's a good idea.
We have one.
All right, we'll get right on that. Hey,
John doesn't realize that he's on it. We record.
Oh my God, this is just me and you. I was wondering who's asking these questions.
I know.
Hey guys, I have a PMAX standard shopping campaign with a TROAS set between 250 and 300, and they only spend 20% of the daily budget. I've tried. Yes. So TROAS set of 250 to 300. What that means is it believes that it only knows a small portion of people that it could go after in order to achieve that result. TROAS targets use half warm traffic. If you say, hey, I need a 300%, it's going to buy 10 people. 3 look like they're going to convert, and then they wait for those 3 to come back. That's why I won't spend. When those 3 come back, you see spike of spend and conversions was like, woo! And then you get that jump, and it won't spend anymore. It's because it converted the people it was waiting for. So drop those TROAS targets, allow it to become more aggressive. Again, TROAS only adjust bids and some targeting based on users. So drop the TROAS, clear out the user targeting, increase your aggressiveness, get a better position, scale to the moon. I do have to jump, guys. I'm so sorry. I would leave my kid at the bus stop if I liked you more than them, but I don't. I'm sorry.
We're going to talk cross-channel attribution in future. I know Stoic and a couple of other people have asked questions about that. For all you guys that we didn't get your questions answered, go to the YouTube channel. We now have these labeled based upon the content that's actually inside of them, as opposed to John and Ralph, Tier 11 Live. So anyway, appreciate so much everyone coming on today, especially in the earlier time frame. You've got to go. You cannot leave your daughter at the bus alone. Until next Friday, we will see you next week, everyone. Thanks so much.
Appreciate everyone. Thanks.